Good afternoon, all. Um, or it's afternoon for me. So, my name is Raymond. Stream Gamers, YouTube. That's where this is being posted and where you've been watching it, I assume. Um, my intentions are to do a flight from Gander, Newfoundland to Stephenville, Newfoundland, on the ICO code CYQX to CYJT. For those that want to know how I'm going to do this and do the flight plan, there you can maybe save and write that stuff down. But we're departing. We're flying to this point, arriving at this point. The intentions are I will fly using navigation or FMS. After takeoff through this point, and beyond this point, it will go to autopilot heading mode. With getting myself to an intersection point for the ILS, we'll take the ILS in, and just before threshold, we'll remove ILS and take over manual controls of the aircraft and put it on the ground. So that's my plan. That's the game plan. That's what I'm intending on doing. I may modify that as we need to for various different reasons. So let's get started. First thing is we want to start the aircraft. We want to get the aircraft ready to go. So we'll open fuel. We'll make sure our fuel selection is open. We'll make sure our props are up. We're going to turn on the battery. Turn on the avionics. And we're going to get some lights.
TOS system test. Okay.
All right, put that back in. We'll use that later. So, unlike other aircraft, this one has a Garmin 1000, I think it is, or 3000, I can't remember. Does it tell me there? 1000s, right? So I was right. So our entering the flight plan is done in here. So first thing is we'll go to a direct flight. The outer circle moves the cursor around. The, uh, uh, the outer circle moves the cursor around. The inner circle makes the selection. So I've flashing in there, move the outer circle, and you see it clicks. We're going to go direct, set up direct, and then we'll put there in our flight point. So CYJT, we'll back her up. CY J. T. So inner circle, as you see, it moves the cursor right to left, depending on which way you turn it. Outer circle or outer ring moves and makes the selections through the alphabetical and numerical that you pick, up and down and back and forth. So the actual distance that we're actually seeing here, when I hit OK, we're seeing the actual distance is 159.2 nautical miles. I can activate that, which I'm going to. So hit activate, boom, done. We're set. We are going to then go into the flight plan, and we're going to notice that those points that I talked about, these two intermediate points that are not in here. So we're going to put those two in. Unlike the A320s, FMS, and I suspect other aircraft, this one we have to be selected on here before we begin putting in our point. So how do we do that? Well, our first thing is we push the center knob like so. Then we use the outer circle to get to there. Then we use the inner circle to start entering in. Entering in IKBUN. So get there. I. K. K. Whoop. B. Back her up. U. Now we'll take her forward. Oops. N. There it is. So IKBUN. Enter that in. It's there. Press the button again. Puts us here. Scroll over. Move the outer circle. Enter in the next waypoint, which is LO Pro cell. L. Whoop. L. O. That's 0. We want O. 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 Back her up for Pro. P. R. Oh, I was there. And O. O. There it is. Enter that in, and you can see. So we're going to take off. We're going to go here. We're going to go here, and then we're going to land here. Our altitude is 8,000 feet. So we want to, I'll save that for another tutorial. So we'll close that off. We got that set. We're going to set our CAD to GPS. That's the way we're going to do this flight. We have to push this button to initialize that screen. And our plan is in place. We are ready to go. In a previous video or previous tutorial, I talked about SimBrief and Plan G. In one of my A320 videos, I talked about that. So if you want to, you can go back through the videos and look at that. I'll try to remember to link it in here so you can find it. We are not started, so we're going to do that. We're going to get ourselves started. We're going to let the ground crew know that we're here and doing something active. We're going to put our strobes on and so forth. We're going to have our batteries are turned on. We are going to set our fuel boost on. We're going to initialize the other panel. And we're going to make sure our fuel is on. It is. All we need to do now is put the starter on, which is here. Start. And now, having said that, I take that back. I'm going to shut that starter off. I wanted to shut you off. I'm going to kill the engine because I wanted to show a proper pushback. And I've done this a couple of times and I've made that mistake. Kill that fuel. There it is. It's killed. Starter is off. Now we'll put that fuel back on. We'll move our mixture back up when we're ready. So now we're going to do that pushback. So our flight plan being filed as it is, we don't have. Let's look at ATC and let's make some decisions here. So let's turn on these functions. Checklist in ATC. Now we want to go to ground services. We can look at ADIS, but what we'll do is we'll just go to ground services. We want to depart. Our intentions are to depart east. So if I click on depart east.
Ground RJD 101 Charlie Alpha 1101 with Alpha request taxi to the active departure to the east. RJD 101 Charlie Alpha 1101 taxi to and hold short of runway tree 1 via taxiway Bravo cross runway tree Alpha. Contact tower on 118.1 when ready. Taxiing hold short runway tree 1 using taxi.
so we can see our taxiway is listed now. I'm going to do a pushback. I'm going to push back this way. And the best way I can talk about pushback is from the back of the aircraft. Which way do I want the tail to turn? I want the tail to turn to the left. So, ground services. I'm going to go back into the aircraft and remove park brake. It's right there, park brake. And for this service, I will look outside. So we'll do a pushback. Our little guy there will get ready.
Charlie Alpha 1101 requesting pushback. RJD 101 Charlie Alpha 1101 pushback request accepted.
And we're going to select left. So I just want to turn left, and I'll turn left right now.
101 Charlie Alpha 1101 requesting pushback HUD to steer the aircraft to the left. RJD 101 Charlie Alpha 1101, your request has been transmitted to the operator.
My thing here is once we're connected and pushing, he'll automatically turn this and push the tail left. I will begin that push, and as I straighten myself up or I'm comfortable with where I want to be, I will then go straight and then go to stop. Here we go. Left we're traveling. Straight.
Ground RJD 101 Charlie Alpha 1101 requesting pushback HUD to push the aircraft straight. RJD 101 Charlie Alpha 1101, your request has been transmitted to the operator.
And stop. And I probably should have done that sooner. Because as you see, I'm pushing back. I'm using the toe brakes to stop it, but
101 Charlie Alpha 1101 request to end pushback received.
done. Pushback is finished. Now we can go into the aircraft and start without getting the props involved. And again, the aircraft is now configured. It's just simple as hit the starter switch. Fuel is there. Everybody's clear. And away we go. Done. It's mostly going to be started. We've done this a few times, so we'll go back to clearance. I can listen to ATIS if we want to. Let's do that.
Standard Airport Information Alpha 20000. Wind 29er, 1 tree. Visibility, 9er. Sky condition, clear. Temperature, 14. Dew point, 1 tree. Altimeter, 29er decimal, 9er 2. Visual runway tree, 1 in use. Landing and departing runway tree 1. DSR, aircraft, say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller, on initial contact, you have Alpha.
Okay, so we will
Standard
switch.
Airport Information Alpha 20000. Wind 29er, 1 tree. Visibility, 9er.
We're switching to ground. We're at the ground services. Tune to, go to clearance, tune to this. Is that what we want to do? Request to end, push back. We've done that. And we want to go. We've been told that we can go here and taxi to and hold short our runway 31. So we're going to do that. We're going to turn our taxi lights on. Taxi light on. And I'm going to give us just a little bit of daylight just to make it a little bit easier to see what's going on. I like to fly in the morning, so let's do that. Let's give ourselves morning. There we go. That's a good time. All right. So press the space bar, which makes me sit up and look over the windscreen. I should be ready for taxi. Just throttle up a bit, and here we roll. Oh, I should be stopping the starter. Off starter. we have a bit of a taxi here.
RJD 101 Charlie Alpha 1101. Hold position, caution, other traffic.
So I'm being told there's other traffic apparently.
Position RJD
Where?
101 Charlie Alpha 1101.
I know not where this other traffic is. Is it that? No. Well, we will continue to go because I see nothing, although ATC has told me to hold. I wish I knew where this other traffic was. Oh, is that up there? I'll bet you that's up there. We'll roll. I'm pretty sure the other traffic they're talking about is up there. We'll continue to roll, and they'll scream at us if they want us to stop again, if they feel that we haven't listened to them. So is that another aircraft out there? It must be. I'm going to slow myself down just a tad. I got a little loopy turn here to do. Not loopy, it's an actual turn. So is there an incoming aircraft?
RJD 101 Charlie Alpha 1101. Continue taxi.
So apparently that hold because traffic
Roger,
is
RJD
over.
101 Charlie Alpha 1101.
So runway 31, we're on our way. We are not on our way to 31. We're on our way to runway 03. I thought, well, maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. I thought ATC wanted us to go to runway 31. It did. Runway 31. Unless this is taking us on a roundabout way of getting there. It might be. It's odd that it does it this way, but it might be still taking us to runway 31. If we look here, there's where I am. There's where I was. I may have missed one of my taxiway turns and it re-established or readjusted. But we'll follow it. It may very well be taking me, which seems kind of weird, but it may very well be taking me here, turn around, and depart. like I said, it just seems to me that it would be the best would have been taking me this way and depart instead of coming all the way down here, but that's okay. I am taxing a little quick. Um, I realize that we should not be taxiing that fast, but we've got some real estate to make up, and if not, then the video gets longer and longer and longer as we do it. I mean, as it is, I'm 20 minutes in already, and I am not at threshold yet. So yeah, you see it turn off that way. It's hilarious. It's hilarious that it would do that, but that's okay. Um, and it could have been because I didn't wait. And now that I think about it, maybe it's because I didn't wait for that traffic that ETC warned me about. And they said, well, if you're not going to wait, then we're going to take you around the airport and make you stay clear of that obstruction. That's possible, is what they did. That's possible. So here's our threshold of runway 31. We'll just go up here to the left and do a turnabout. Just give it a little bit of go. All right. At the threshold, we look
Tower
at
RJD 101 Charlie Alpha 1101
ready to go.
ready at runway 31 departure to the east.
So
RJD 101 Charlie Alpha 1101 cleared for takeoff runway 31 East departure approved.
just a little bit of house cleaning and a little bit of discussion
Takeoff
of
runway 31
what we're
RJD
going to do.
101 Charlie Alpha 1101.
We are going to put our separator on. We're going to have 1 notch of flap. We're going to get ourselves to that 80-ish knot range, 80, 85 knot range. That's the intended anyways. We're going to I'm going to put that on so I don't have to hold the toe brakes anymore. At which point we're going to rotate. We're going to fly out. We're going to have positive climb. Once we have positive climb, we're going to put the flaps up. We have one flap. We're going to identify that when we push the flap up, we have to be aware that the nose will go down. Our initial altitude will be 4,000. We will climb for 8,000, which we will level off and continue flight along the way. I will let the video run, but all likelihood is I will chop off the large section in the middle. I will chop that out, and I will then only keep the beginning section, departure, cruise, descent, ILS landing, and so on and so on. I will keep that all in place. So without further ado, let's get it started. Again, a little plug for Stream Gamers, and in conjunction with flybywires.net, our little flight group that I belong to. My name is Raymond. If there's anything you'd like to hear or see on the channel, please let me know. I'm happy to do so. Also, if there's any critiquing necessary, I appreciate the critique. I appreciate it in an adult manner and in a civil manner. I don't appreciate it in less than that. Those that are less than that, I'll remove them. This channel is not being sponsored by anyone. It's me doing it on my own because I wish to. I'm not being sponsored by Microsoft in any shape or form, or Asobo, although you will hear me talk about them a bit throughout the flight and so forth like that. And so here we are. Let us put the brakes in. Let's hold our toe brakes in so we're prepared. Let's throttle ourselves up just a tad. Separators on, and let's release and begin the taxi. Once you see air coming in, or your speed coming in here, that means airspeed is alive. It means the pitot tubes aren't obstructed and it's actually sensing speed. There we go. So airspeed is alive. As I said, we're going to try to lift off at around 85 knots. We're going to give it just a tad more go. And I might be a little early. Let's let it build a bit more. I can feel it lifting, so up we go. I should say I can't feel it, I can see it. It gives the sensation of feeling, but there isn't really. Right, so we have a good positive climb rate. You can, as indicated right there, good positive climb rate. I could push the flaps up, but I'm not going to. I am going to eliminate the ATC. It's annoying. So, good climb out. We climb out typically at 115 to 120 is where our climb out is, and that's kind of what I'm heading for, gearing for, aiming for, is where I'm trying to go. You'll see that I'm still in the white band here, and the fact that I'm in that band tells me I'm in flap range. So I'm probably gonna somewhere around 110 knots is where I'm probably gonna pull the flaps up. Now, when I do that, you're going to see that the flaps come up, and you're going to see that the nose is going to want to dive. That's a condition of pulling the flaps up. So I'm going to be in preparation of that. I'm going to have nose up configuration slightly, so that when I do the flaps, it won't have a bad effect on it. So here we go. We're going to nose up ever so slightly and pull the flap up. And you can see that the effect of that was minimal. Now I am going to autopilot, and I'm going to turn on nav, turn on vertical speed. My vertical speed is set at 800, so that's my intended climb out. I've released the yoke. I'm turning building speed. And my flaps are up completely, and I'm going to reduce my climb out just to say 600. I would prefer to have more speed than climb. We're gonna go in here. We're gonna turn ATC down and off because I don't care to hear it as much anymore. So we'll save that. Save that, and we'll go back, and we'll resume. We'll zoom. I think I've shut it off. If I haven't, we'll go back in and shut some more things off. Okay, so we are buzzing along. You can see us right here. We're heading toward this magenta line. That's our focus to get ourselves back onto course. Our first intersection, as put into the flight plan, is IKBUN, and we are heading there. We're 54 miles away from that intersection. Climbing again out at 141-ish knots. We are ascending at 600 feet per minute. I think I can now move that up another 100 or so. There we go. So we're going to climb out now at 700. I prefer to climb out a little quicker and get to my cruise altitude a little quicker. Our altitude is set at 4,000 as indicated right here, but our final cruise altitude will be 8,000. The flight plan had indicated that we are going there. Looking at SimBrief, this is SimBrief. SimBrief. We talked about this briefly in another video. We'll talk about it again. This is how it got the flight plan. I've omitted one of the stops along the way, and that's this over here. I've omitted. TOD, top of descent. So that's a top of descent. That's where we're going to begin our descent down. But we're going to do it a little differently. We're not going to use this in entirety. We're gonna change our flight plan on the fly, as it were. So I've omitted this. This will have been omitted. Um, my plan is to take this approach or this line right here and come in on that. So I will come from here and go here. In doing that, I will, what will I do? I will likely turn nav mode off. I will switch the CDI from heading or nav to VOR, which then you'll see this go to green, and then it will allow me to navigate using the heading that I dial in. I always push this button to move that indicator. How come that didn't do that? That's weird. It's supposed to. It's an unusual thing that just took place. I've not seen that before. It's supposed to put it in line with my current heading when I push that button. What am I missing? Let's try that again. Yeah, that's bizarre. Huh. Okay. Well, there is some uniqueness to this then, apparently. But what I'm intending to do is I'm intending to have my heading dialed into my current heading, thereabouts, close enough, and off we go. We are at 4,000, climbing. The red ribbon here, and you get into this range, you're overspeeding. I want to be mindful of nothing red in these things. So I'll do that briefly. I'll push the throttle forward and you'll see the torque go up into the red. That just means I've pushed the throttle too far forward. I need to pull that throttle back. And so we want to have green is good, red is bad. That's kind of the idea behind this. Let's dial in 8,000, shall we? And 8,000. You see it's indicated 8,000. Let's turn in and put our vertical speed on, which is now indicated here. And we'll climb back up again at around 900 or so. I think let's climb it out at 1100 will be good. I want to get up there sooner than later. So off we go. We won't ever exceed. Our taxi lights can come off. Our wing lights or landing lights come on. So we finished taxiing, and that should have been FYI. Those taxi lights should have been shut off at the threshold, and the wing lights, or the wing lights should have been turned on as I was going into my lineup for takeoff. I should have had them on. It's just one of those things that I don't do a very good job of managing, but I know it's there and I know it should be done. I'm going to have a brief little rant, as I do. Not intended to have rants, but I do at times. I want to talk briefly about Microsoft Flight Simulator and so forth. And I'm going to do this a few more times in my videos because I want it to be heard. And some people may not watch my earlier stuff. Some may watch this one and not see the other one. So I'll just quickly have a quick little discussion about this. Microsoft Flight Simulator in conjunction with Asobo Studios. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I personally, this is my personal opinion, not sponsored by anybody, I personally think it's a brilliant piece of software. I think it's amazing. For those people who say aircraft, autopilots, and everything else don't work properly, I've done a number of YouTube videos to actually show and indicate that it does. And I'm a novice simmer. I'm not an experienced simmer as some are. I'm a novice simmer. I have about 5 years of experience. Lots about the simming world I don't know, but I'm novice. I'm a novice simmer in this area, and I've just taken the time to educate myself to learn how this stuff works. And in doing so, I can actually make it work and do exactly what I want it to do, exactly as it's anticipated. Everything that I've done so far to this point has been anticipated, with the odd exception of user error, and that's usually what I'm finding is the case. It's user error. When I mean user error, I don't mean you guys are wrong and everybody's wrong. It's just we just don't know. So, for example, my pushback. If you look back in the video, my pushback, I always push back, turn, go straight, then stop. Well, in the case of this, there was a long lag time between the message getting to the pushback cart from the time I pushed those buttons, and so I found myself pushing considerably further back than I wanted to. So I'll adjust that. I just have to identify this type of aircraft does not do that well, whereas the A320 does it very well. Push back, turn left, push back, wait, 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 wait. Okay, I'm close. Hit straight. It straightens almost immediately. It takes the command almost immediately. Anyways, enough said about that. We learned to do Flight Simulator through the other simulation pieces of software, Prepared 3D, FSX, X-Plane. I've flown them all. I've flown them both, all three of those. Prepared not as much, but I've flown them all. We learned the characteristics of flight through those systems, whether they're right or wrong, it doesn't matter to me. And whether this characteristic is right or wrong, doesn't matter. It is different than FSX or X-Plane. I fully admit that. But guys and girls, remember that there are 1,000 points throughout this aircraft that are affected by turbulence, by winds, by weather, by ice, by rain. There's 1,000 points that are being affected. Whereas those other simulators, I don't know what the numbers are. There was a brief discussion about that, and I've forgotten what those numbers were. But minuscule in comparison. And so we see now as we fly near a large structure on the left-hand side of us, we see that impact the aircraft. The other thing is the controls. The controls work. You can see as I've taken off, they work. They do exactly what's expected of them. They do it differently. It's not wrong, in my opinion. It's not wrong. It's just different. And we need to learn the differences. So when I jumped into the Caravan 208B, my first flight, as I said in other videos, was horrible. Was horrible. I couldn't keep it in the air. I didn't understand. I learned to realize I need more airspeed before I start doing things. I need to have better control of the aircraft. The recovery is much the recovery point is much shrunken. You don't have oodles of time. You can't just yank back on the column and expect it to do what you want it to do. So there's a lot of things in here that we have to understand that are different, not wrong, different. The systems and tools in which I've heard repeatedly saying they don't work and they are busted and they're broken, and Microsoft and Asilba has released the simulator too soon. They've done a horrible job. This aircraft wasn't ready for release. This aircraft wasn't ready for release. I only fly stock aircraft. I did fly a A320 that was somebody else's rendition. I won't talk much about them. I don't think they're making a bad package. But in a world and in a simulator that already has an A320, to me it feels like I should be flying that one. And I know that lots of people have said, well, they can't fly that one because it's broken. Well, look back in my videos and you'll see a number of tutorials and a number of flights that I did with the A320 using various different systems. And you will see I took off, I climbed out, I cruised, I descended, I approached, I touched down, I landed, I navigated, I went to the gate, I throttled, reverse thrust, all of those things all took place as expected. So for those that say it was broken, I tell you, at least mine isn't. Maybe I'm the only one that has the working one. That's possible, I guess. Not likely, of course. A little sarcasm. Anyways, that's it. That's my little rant about and my little plug for the system. I think it's great. I think we're getting scenery that is never seen before. I know some people have talked about X-Plane scenery is amazing, and it certainly is. It's very good. And especially with add-on scenery from Orbix and the other providers, it's very good. It still isn't true VFR flight. The roadways aren't 100% depicted. Buildings aren't 100% depicted. I don't think they are in 2020 either, but they're certainly much more. It's closer. So true VFR flight can take place in Sim 2020, and close to true VFR flight can take place in X-Plane and probably FSX with spending a lot of money on scenery. You know, Orbix mesh and Orbix big blocks of areas. If you purchase those things, which I have, they do a pretty good job, but you have to purchase them. I just for those that don't know, I've got the deluxe premium edition or whatever it is. So any and all aircraft that were given, I have them. I haven't flown them all. There is something to be said for me, anyways, and that is learn the aircraft, fly it, fly it, fly it, fly it, learn it, learn it, learn it. Now I know it. Great. Maybe now I can transition to the next one. But never forget and don't not come back to the one. So this was the one that I initially took off and tried to learn how to fly. Um, and I haven't flown it for a little while. And I'm a little shaky on the rudder pedals on the taxi out. And I'm a little shaky on the departure and the pull back on the column because it acts a little differently. I've been flying the A320 quite a bit, so I need to share my time amongst the varying different aircraft, or I'll lose the feel for this particular aircraft. I have a good friend of mine. He flies DC-3, and he is amazing in it. He's got it. He doesn't need to look at instruments. Not that there's a whole lot in there to look at. But he's got it. He can take off. He can throttle up, throttle down, navigate, turn right, turn left, go up, go down, ascend, line up, put it on the runway, and he does an amazing job. But he's flown it a lot, and you know who you are that I'm referring to. He's flown it a lot. Not as much of these ones, although he has improved vastly, as I have my first flight as well. I think so. Right. We are still, as I've rambled on, we are 19 miles to this intersection. I'm going to turn my mic off, and I'm not going to communicate a whole lot, and likely the dead air and dead space that's in here is going to be edited out, because I don't want to have this video be, overly long, as it is already. It's 40 minutes long. So I will stop talking, and we will pick up close to our top of our descent and close to our turning and so forth, getting ready for lineup. See you in a bit. Right, so we are at our first waypoint, our intersection, and it's there. We've hang on, we're just transitioning through it. There should be a slight course correction or a slight course change. You're seeing it's turning here ever so slightly off to the right. And now we are headed toward our next and final intersection. We are 64 miles away, running a heading of 287. We're going to correct for that heading here shortly. I'm going to kind of walk through about the radio stack a little bit. There's an automated system and a way of doing it. I'm going to talk about that, and I'm also going to talk about how you actually just do it in the aircraft as well. Because I use Plan G, as I've talked about before, here's Plan G. We are zipping along right here, headed for here, and going to come into here. We have an ILS right there. And so my plan is to show the ILS approach and get prepared for that landing. And I may take it right down as 200 feet or so, and take over myself. I may even decide to take it right to the runway. I don't know yet. Well, I haven't had a lot of experience with that, and I don't want to bugger the flight up. So, anyways, so the ILS is there now. Because I use Plan G and I have this ILS, I put my cursor on there and I can see CYJT ILS runway 27. IGT is 109.5. Let's just scroll in a bit. So that is the ILS that we will use to do the ILS approach and landing if we choose to do it all the way through. Now we can right click on it and hit set ILS. This thing here is called a radio stack. It also comes from Plan G. So I could hit this and hit set ILS. It will put it into the standby into here. I can hit this button and tune it. So I'll do that. There you see it's gone into here, and there it's gone into there. Now we know that that happened by in the aircraft, along the top of this panel, you got your navigation, right? And you've got your radio. So your navigation is right here. This was, I'm going to move that screen back over. 110 is in the standby, 110.5. 110.5 is in the standby, and 109.5 is in the active. AFI, toggle these buttons back and forth. You can see it switch back and forth. This lever is what adjusts the numbers and so forth. And I believe this is what tunes it between, well, it says right there, between nav 1 and nav 2. We are nav 1, and if I turn that dial, if I turn that dial, am I right about that? This is supposed to tune it. It is. So you can see it's turning. So if I wanted to have that, and let's just swap that out. So that's the frequency. The previous frequency I had in there was 110 something or other, 110 and 105. So I'm going to tune that in here. Whoops, 110. There we go. That's 110, 105. So I'm going to put that in there. And then I'm going to tune the ILS frequency, which is 109.5. 109.5. This little one here will tune these points. So that's the way you would do it here, not using Plan G's system. I lost my radio stack. There it is. I'll put that back over here. Go back home. Yes. So that's how you do it in the aircraft. If you had a radio stack panel, similar to like I have my autopilot panel, you could have a panel and you could just turn the dials and press the buttons and do that there too. But I just wanted to go over that with you and show you how that functions and how that works. The same can be said for the comms, right? So the navigation and the comms. So we got COM 1, COM 2. We can tune them here. We can adjust them in here if we like, just by putting our cursors there and tuning them. We can come down here and tune them here using these dials and buttons right here, which will tune the comm. So that's your nav and your comms to do it. Your comms typically, if you let 2020 Copilot system override and do that for you, it will. So when an ATC says do this, do that, do this, do that, AI control, I have it set to do the checklist and manage the radio comms as well. Because again, it's just switching from comms, this part to this part. You're not doing that in the part of the flight where there's great lulls of inactivity. You're actually doing that at the time where you also should be setting up other systems, your autopilot, your frequency, your ATIS control, your um, ground, making sure that your heading is right, your altitude's right, your descent rate is right, your climb rate is right, flaps are up, flaps are down, gear down. All these things that you're supposed to be keeping an eye on as the pilot, and yet still doing all the tuning. I find it difficult to do that, so I do this. I see there's a guy who has done a number of YouTube videos. Squirrel is his name. He does an amazing job in his videos, and I very much appreciate his videos. Just look him up on YouTube. His name is Squirrel. He plays a multitude of games, but Sim 2020 was one of them. He was doing a lot of how-to videos and so forth. And he had an amazing series on there as well. So, anyways, um, I use the AI traffic control so that my co-pilot will look after all this stuff for me, so I don't have to. That was the purpose of that conversation. Long-winded, but that's who I am. I'm very long-winded. So, 43 miles away from our destination, or our next point, where we'll start to start looking at taking care of some things. That puts us 35 miles from the airport at 8,000 feet. The runway elevation is 50 feet, I think it is, thereabouts, so basically sea level. We'll have to descend some 8,000 feet to obviously get onto the runway. My altitude and speed that I want to be at when I'm getting myself more lined up and ready to do what I want to do. 2,500 feet, between 25 and 3,500 feet is good for me. I typically want to do that some 10 miles before the runway. 10, 15 miles, depends on the aircraft and the speed, and there's a number of factors. But you know, uh, 2,500 to 3,500 feet, 10 to 15 miles away. Those are good distances. You again, you don't want to be, you know, 5 miles away from the runway at 8,000 feet. Yes, you could lose that altitude if you wanted to. Everybody would have nosebleeds and throw up and get sick, but you could. The issue is that as you lose that altitude, you will gain so much speed, and you will have so little control. Everything will be happening so fast. You will have very little time, and you'll have to make decisions very quickly, and they'll have to be right ones, not waffled ones. Because if not, then the landing will be bad, and it won't be a landing. It'll likely be a crash or a go around. So I've said it over and over and over again. Prepare for your descent. I mean, just back that all the way up. Prepare your whole flight. Prepare your taxi out. How you're going to taxi out. Prepare your lineup. Prepare You're get ready for takeoff. Know what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. Don't just mash the throttles and see what happens, but be prepared. Figure out where you intend to gear up and flap up and how you intend to do that. And when you do these steps, you realize, oh yes, that's right. When I flap up, my nose goes down. I got to be prepared for that. So I want to have a bit of a nose up attitude to compensate for that. And make sure you're looking at indications like this over here, like overspeed or flaps in flap range and that kind of stuff. They're there for a reason. Um, we're not intended to put the flaps out right now. They would serve us no purpose, and the aircraft would act in a way that you would not understand what it's doing. It's not controlled. Um, so prepare yourself all the way through. You're hearing me talk some 60 miles away from our next point, which still gives us another 30 minutes away before touchdown, or 35 not minutes, miles. So I'm theorizing in my head how the approach is going to be. I'm theorizing what is my path, what are my steps going to be to do that, how I'm going to do that. My expectations are I'm going to come in as on an ILS approach, and I'm going to turn off the autopilot somewhere in that 400 mile to 200, 400 to 200 feet off the runway, and I'm planning to take over the aircraft at that point. I'm planning to land and put the aircraft on the ground somewhere around 85 to 90 knot in that area. That's my plan, and I'm going to hope to accomplish that. At this point, so far, I have almost always accomplished it. I've almost always failed it when I have been rushed. That speed has never been where it needs to be because I'm rushed. Because I'm either descending too fast and I can't scrub the speed off, because I'm too slow because I haven't been paying attention, and I've slowed the way down and I'm at 120 knots, or I'm at 60 knots because I'm not paying attention. So just plan it out. And that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be planning it out, and I kind of have already, as going through this conversation, I've kind of planned it all out in my head, what my expectations are, what my intentions are, and I'll share that briefly. So as we get to when you push this button in, you then have a pointer, and you can move that pointer left and right by doing what I'm doing, on that side, that way, up or down. There's the pointer. All I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to get it over just a bit so I can see it. There we go. And then I want to scroll in, not out. There. Okay. So we know where the aircraft is right here. I know that the runway is here, and I know that the ILS feathers run off into this direction. I know that from my flight plan, when I looked at it, it gave me in SimBrief, which is right here, it gave me this kind of from this point straight down to the ILS. That point that I refer to is here, down to here, ILS coming up. I want to remember to switch this mode to VOR1, because that's where I've got my radio in. I want to remember to swap out the active for the hold, so this becomes active, because that is the frequency in which I need. I need to be aware that there's going to be a little added graphic here. It's going to give me a center line, an above line, and a below line. You're going to see it at the above line, which tells me I'm too high. And as that starts to descend down to the center line, I'm going to switch modes, and I'm going to activate auto approach mode. What that will do is, once the aircraft continues to fly at that given altitude, because I won't change the altitude, but once it flies at that given altitude and it indicates I am too high by the line going beneath, it indicates I am too high, it will trip the altitude hold off, and you will see this altitude hold will disappear. It is at that point, with speed, flap, and some trim, we control the descent rate to the runway using an approximate 3-degree glide slope. So that's what that means. The way I understand it, what that means is that the aircraft is descending, not the nose pitched down, but the aircraft is descending at approximately 3 degrees downward. It can still have the nose pitched up. It's descending 3 degrees downward. That's something that I took a long time for me to identify and realize that there's a difference between nose down 3 degrees and the aircraft descending down by 3 degrees. I always wanted to pitch the nose down by 3 degrees, and it makes it very difficult to fly the aircraft in doing that. That doesn't mean that you can't. It's just I find it difficult to fly the aircraft that way. So I have some variation of that, and that's controlled by speed, flaps, mostly speed flap, and trim until I get that nice comfortable coming down. You will see in this graphic as I refer to, you will see that center line and the idea between speed, flaps, and so forth. I want to keep that line that will be there on that center mark. That will mean that I am in line with hitting the numbers of the runway. If I'm below that, it means I am too high. Sorry, too low. If I'm above that line, I am too high. I think that's what it is. Don't hold me to that. I've forgotten a little bit because I haven't done a lot of ILS flying. So don't hold me to that. I'll maybe come up with exactly what it is maybe as we do it. Right. 16 miles. It's time to stop rambling on about this stuff, and it's time to start considering the getting prepared, portion. So I have my heading turned to my current. Okay, so in theory, I could change my CDI from FMS or from there to VOR 1. I could then press my heading, which I've done. I've removed this navigation, pushed my heading. I am now flying in a heading hold. I'm no longer flying using this magenta flying navigation system, or GPS, I should say. I'm no longer flying that. I'm just flying with autopilot and heading hold. If I were to dial my heading, to 250 degrees, it would bank to the left and start to turn. If I were to dial it into 315, it would bank to the right and start to turn. There is a heading or a course, and I'm going to show that. I'm putting my cursor on the runway or where we're going to. So it says, and the bottom line, it says runway 27, CYJT. There's the frequency. A localizer at 271. That's the actual course that we are going to fly at. When I get ready to turn toward that ILS, closer toward it, I should say, I will be turning to a heading of 271. Let me just put that back again so we can capture that again one more time. There it is. I will be turning to a course of 271. We use runways such as 05 and 27, but they're closely representative of their heading, but closely. There is no runway that's called 271. They just call it 27. I think that's why they do it that way. Anyways, so enough of that. Here we are, some 9 miles out. Still, we're in good shape. We're just zipping along here, and I'm going to let it fly just beyond, in which case I'm going to then turn. I'm going to turn my heading to. I want you to see it capture the glide slope and turn in. I don't know if it'll do that distance away. So I think what I'll do is I think I'll let it fly another, I don't know, maybe another 5-10 miles out, and then I'll start to turn it to a close representation of that heading of 271, in which case I will enable or initiate the ILS approach, and you should see the aircraft dance right and left and so forth until it lines itself up with the runway. Um, and we'll see that. Maybe I'll bring this up. Um, Maybe I'll bring this up to show it. I don't know if it does a good showing of the runways in here, though. It doesn't. Not really. Does it? I mean, that is the runway. It just doesn't show the airport the way I expected it to. So anyways, we'll leave that. Anyways, so here we go. We are 4 miles, basically 5 miles. And we've been working on the flight or in the flight for 1 hour and 9 minutes at this point, and I may just release this video exactly in its entirety with the dead space in it and all, or I'll chop it out. I'm not sure yet. Anyways, you can fast forward it, of course. A quick little plug here: Stream Gamers, in conjunction with Fly-by-Wires. That's flybywires.net with an S, so flybywires.net. That's our flight group. We're on Discord, and you can look us up on the web at that web address that I gave. Yes, that's enough of that. I just so we understand, or so that everybody actually understands, I'm fairly new to content creation. I'm not new to YouTube, but fairly new to content creation, and so sometimes I don't necessarily know exactly how to do it all, so I'm kind of learning on the fly, and sometimes I ramble on a little bit because I think there shouldn't be dead air, so I ramble on. And then I ramble on about things that all of a sudden pop into my head that I think are important. They're certainly important to me, and I want to share that. So as my videos get better, and as I do it more and more often, more and more frequently, my videos will get better, and we'll begin to have more appropriate content type videos put out, and with less blah 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 and stuff like that. So anyways, I also want to keep it very real and so forth, and this really is who I am. I'm a very over detailed person, as a good friend of mine can attest to. Things have to be just. So that's just a little bit about me. Right. We've just passed our intersection. You can see that here as it's indicated there. So we've just passed that intersection. And our runway is over there somewhere. There is some anomalies there. I did this flight previously, and they disappeared as I came in closer. I'm trusting they'll do the same. They're just weird scenery glitches that are in Asobo on the little rock, which is Newfoundland. They will fix it, I'm sure, down the road. So you can see those anomalies. They look like hills, but they're not. They don't really exist. I'm going to, out of curiosity, engage the the ILS. I'm going to see if it will actually identify it and pull me in. If not, I'll do it manually. So what we do is we make sure that we tune, as we talked about this, that frequency over. So now our ILS frequency is over and the other's in standby. And we just simply push that button. You'll notice that both heading and nav are on. It hasn't picked it up, but we'll fly further in the trajectory that we are actually flying. Even if we get out to here and it says, "Oh, there's an ILS," I can see it. It'll just turn us back in. So that's what we'll do. That graphic that I was telling you about should show up here once it sees, I think, the beacon or the VOR. Maybe that's what it's called. Once it sees it, I think I'm going to descend to 5,000. I'll just do a slow, gradual descent. There we go. Because the last thing I want to do is I don't want to be 8,000, 20 miles away. I don't like that. It's just it'll be too rushed for me. We'll just get ourselves to bed a little bit quicker. We're going to throttle back a little bit. You can see we're getting close to our over throttle, or over speed, I should say. So we'll just let throttle back just a tad. And I thought there was a beacon sound that you could hear. But I don't have. You see it turn? It's picked up the glide slope. It's picked it up. It's turning it. So the runway is over here. This is the direction in which we're going. The idea is that when this line, the way I understand it, is directly in line, here's our aircraft, right? This is where we're going, but the runway is over here. So it's taking the aircraft and pushing it over here, effectively moving this line over to us. And you can see way off in the distance a little blinky down there. That's the little blinky. This anomaly that's right here, that's directly in front of the runway, at least it did the last time. It should remove itself. And I think as we get, I think it's a 30-mile range, if I remember correctly, when this little graphic will show itself. I think that's how that works. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's correct. So we're descending. Yeah, so runway elevation 45 feet above sea level of, I believe that's what it is. Again, you hear me say these things, I think. I say them that way because I really actually don't know 100%. Something I'm convicted in that I actually know, I will say it. You know, it is this, it is that. You can see way off in the distance on this panel is the runway over there. It's actually there, I think it is. So we're still not in alignment of it, but we're going to get there. My heading hold is gone because I've now grabbed onto the ILS. It's, yep, you see it's going to bank us over now, because what it's trying to do right now is it's trying to put us directly in line with the runway over there. There's another fella there flying about. And there's the graphic I was referring to. There's the indicated line right there. That's telling me that we are descending. I can now hit the auto approach, which is this button here. When this gets to the center line here, it's going to kick off the altitude hold. And then I will begin with throttle and with flaps. I will begin my descent in a controlled 3-degree descent rate thereabouts. Not necessarily, as I said, not necessarily pitching the nose down, but yeah, not necessarily pitching it down. You see it's transitioning now, that little dot. This is where this graphic is shown here. It's not always shown in the same place. One moment. Right, a little brief discussion with my wife. Yes, I am married and kids, grandkids, the whole lot. I'm an older fella, not ancient but older. One day when I get my webcam figured out, I'll start to show some of my setup and do all of that good stuff. So it looks like it looks like I am going to fly into the side of this little mountain here. I'm not, but it looks that way. I've let my speed bleed down a bit too much. I don't like being that slow. If I'm assuming you heard the beep, the long beep. If not, there was a long beep, and what that meant was my altitude hold turned off, and that was because that little graphic reached center line. So now we are in complete, uh, um, what's the word that I'm hunting for? We are using the ILS to hold us vertically, and we're using the ILS to show us up and down um, where we are in terms in relationship to the actual runway. And this line here is helping us with that. So as this line were to go up or down, we have to adjust speed and flaps and so forth, and maybe trim accordingly. It's usually pretty good because if you've come in at the right speed, you know, if you haven't come in 4 million miles an hour like I am right now, you're usually going to be pretty good. I am coming in far too fast, so I'm going to slow her down. You see that anomaly disappeared. I'm going to start slowing it down. I want to get to flap range here soon. We're 12 miles from the threshold. So I'm bleeding off some speed. I'm probably going to come in on one notch of flaps. You know what? I'll come in full flaps like I always do. Like I usually land in full flap configuration, and that's what makes me feel fairly comfortable. You will see that I come in slower than lots of people suggest. There's lots of people that suggest around 100 mile an hour or so is the approaching speed. I like 85. I'd like to do 80 because I have more time, but I appreciate that I probably won't be able to. So anywhere from 85 to 95, 100, that's up to you how you do that. But we're coming in very good. We've got a really good, yeah. I'm not sure why that flight director doesn't turn on. There was something about that. I tried that last time and it didn't come on. Something about the configuration maybe. Anyways, runway way out there, 9.5 miles out. And we're just we're in really good shape right now. We can maybe throttle up just a bit, improve the speed a little bit. Our whole flight time at this point has been 1 hour and 21 minutes. We'll be on ground probably in the next 5 minutes or so. Which case we will look to ATC to give us taxi instructions to gate. Park her at the gate. Have a conversation about cleanup and so forth. Maybe a little plug for the channel again, and that'll be the video. I am intending on doing some streaming as well on YouTube. I probably won't stream Twitch, although I do have a Twitch account. I'm told that I can mirror the stream from YouTube over to Twitch and Twitch over to YouTube, I think. So I'll probably do that. 114. Our descent rate is looking good. You could see that it appears that our nose is perched up slightly. Let's just go to an outside view, and it really kind of is more level. It's the way I'm sitting in the aircraft. If I did this, then it would look differently. But I like to come in on this at this angle. So I'm going to be deploying my first stage of flaps 5 miles out. We are 1.5 miles from that. Note that when you deploy your flaps, you usually get a nose up condition. So just be prepared that it will do that. It will settle itself down. So first stage of flap, I will use my autopilot panel flap, but there's my first stage of flap, and you see that the nose gently went up. Your from manual control is right there. It appears that we are a little, we're a little under the glide slope. We'll just get ourselves up just a bit, just a tad more speed. Let's get ourselves up there. 80 knots, or 85 I should say. That would be my sweet spot of landing. We should get an announcement here soon on our elevation, or our altitude, I should say, not elevation. And you notice how I've pushed that up just a little bit. I've increased my speed just ever so slightly, so I'm now in better condition. So 90. I'm probably going to let it drift back a little bit again in speed, because I don't want to be any more than 90 on my final. We're in good shape. We're in exceptionally good shape. 3 miles out. I don't think that's the case. Yes, it is 3 miles out. It's indicated right here, 3 miles out. I'll probably at around the 2 mile mark, I'll probably go full flap. 2 miles isn't far, and I prefer to deal with any bobbling around and give myself a minute of time. I'll do that shortly.
500.
There's our 500 announcement. Ease back, flap down. We're in full flap. We'll throttle up a bit because you can see my speed is bled off, and I do want to be at that 85. Here we come. So I'm probably going to stop the yapping here soon, because I need to concentrate, put all the 3 brain cells that I have together and put it on the ground. Yeah. We're 300. 200. 100. Autopilot off. We've drifted off a little bit. I'm going to try to bring it back. I don't know if I have enough to do that, enough altitude. I'm good. Throttle off. Flare. Little bouncy again. Nothing horribly long, but so you could come in considerably faster than that, and you would probably be able to have a much nicer, softer landing. And I think I'm going to start to practice that a little bit. Flap up. So we'll get to the turn off, and we'll just have a quick, brief conversation about what we do there. We'll slow her down a bit more. Turn off is just ahead. And I can see off in the distance those blue lines. That's where our turn off is. So we'll lose some more speed. It's another thing that I think I could do better, and that is I float this thing in so slow that when I do touchdown, I'm actually stopped long before the average person is stopped, and actually needs to stop. Right? I didn't need to stop way back there. I could have went deep and let it roll, taxi a little ways, slowly got on the brakes, all that good stuff. So we're here. We'll stop the aircraft here. We'll tune to the traffic. Now it's clear of runway. We will put our taxi light on, our landing lights off. And here's our we are clear of runway. I was expecting it to give me an option to taxi to gate or to a parking spot, but it hasn't. That's weird. Well, let's follow. Let's follow this in and see if we can find our own. Kind of weird the way this line takes you right in the midst of that building, but I guess we'll have to get onto the other line. Otherwise, we'll mow the building down. Now I see some general aviation over there. So we'll turn off here and we'll head off in that direction. Yeah, that building is very badly placed because the taxiway is here, running through the edge of that building. That's weird. Anyways, I see a guy up there, and is that where we're going to park? Maybe. Nope. Well, we'll be the odd guys, and we'll park opposite. No, we'll park beside the fuel truck. That's what we'll do, without hitting the fuel truck. Or we'll let the fuel truck back into us. I realize this is backwards, guys. I got it. I understand. I've come in here wrong. But I want to stop the video is what I want to do, and I want to be out of the way when I do it. So put our park brake in. I should have turned my separator off a long time ago, but I didn't. Taxi light off, strobe off, all the lights are off. We got no icing on. We don't want to stall or shut the engine off, so we'll just cut the fuel. And we'll turn the props down. Prop down. We'll shut off the fuel. And we'll shut up that. And it's winding now. There it is. It's wound down. We'll shut off the co-pilot display. We'll shut up the pilot's display. Get this notification of all our flights that we've done, but it's ending the flight. I want to continue because I want to go through the rest of the procedure. Fuel boost is off. Batteries are off. Lights are all off. Parking brake is on. And that is us. We have arrived. So that flight, hour and a half. For those that were watching the YouTube video, I appreciate it. Extreme gamers again. Be kind, be happy, enjoy life, be safe, mask up, all that wonderful stuff. The world is going through the pandemic, not an individual country or an individual town. It's the world, and so let's be careful and be safe so that we can return back to some level of normality. If there's other content you wish to see, by all means, please comment it in or put it in the comment section. I will read them. I would appreciate the like and the subscribe. I'd like to have some of these videos hit more mainstream viewers, that they might see these things and see the content, just to gain a little bit of traction. My plan is not to grow the channel and make it this great big organization. I'm not opposed to it doing that, but that's not my plan. I'm a guy that's kids, grandkids, wife, all these wonderful things that we all have. And I don't have 15 hours a day to sit in front of the computer to do this stuff. But the time that I do have, I enjoy it, and I do it, and I will do it. I am on a bit of a roll with Sim 2020, but I will eventually transition to my other games that I enjoy playing as well, and I'll start putting some of those videos out. I have a few more things that I want to do in what I'm referring to as a series, and that is, how do I start it? How do I fly it? How do I land it? How do I? It's the how do I series in multitude of different aircraft. I won't do it for all aircraft, but I'm trying to, go from that small aircraft, which I'll probably do a Cessna 152 or 172, probably 172 is what I'll probably do. Mostly everybody has it. I do have, I'm not sure if I announced it before, but I do have the Premium Deluxe Edition, so I have all of the aircraft. So I want to do like a Cessna 172. I've done the King Air. I've done the Caravan 208. I've done the A320. I'll probably do a Citation. I'll probably do the 747. And because I have the Dreamliner, I'll probably do the 787 Dreamliner as well. I'll probably do a couple other single-engined general aviation aircraft and dual propped engined aircraft as well. And I'll pick them as I do them, and we'll talk about them. Mostly it's about the navigation aids and tools and stuff like that. How do they work? It is also about why doesn't this aircraft climb out? Why can't I maintain altitude? Why can't I? Why can't I? And I've heard that a number of occasions. Not just in our group, but I've also heard that in other groups and other YouTube videos that I've watched and listened to. And there's a lot of them out there. People are frustrated. So that's me. That's it. Comments in the comment section. Stream Gamers in conjunction with Fly-by-Wires. Like, subscribe, notification bell. Do it, do it, do it. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.